Hello and welcome back to That 70s Card Show. I'm your host, John Keating, and I thank you for joining me as I take a look back at the cards and the culture of the very colorful 1970s. We'll revisit a more simple time in our hobby by taking a dive into the sets and the stats with a generous amount of dad facts sprinkled in. That 70s Card Show is currently sponsored by nobody. If you have a comment or suggestion, I urge you to drop me a line at ThatSeventiesCardShow at gmail.com. 70s Card on the Twitter or on YouTube, That 70s Card Show. This is episode 49, and we are calling it The Barnes Part 1. That's TheBarns P1. Before we get going in that direction, I need to kind of circle back to last week's episode where I talked about the 78-79 Topps basketball set. How can you have a recap of the 78-79 season if you don't talk about the 78 draft? Obviously, that 78 draft was interesting in that Larry Bird was drafted in that draft, yet played the 78-79 season with the Indiana State Sycamores, obviously facing Magic Johnson's Michigan State Spartans in the final of the NCAA championship. So most of us know by now that Larry Bird was drafted because he had his original college class had graduated, and obviously he had a year of eligibility left, so he stuck around. Old Larry had started with Bobby Knight in '74, but apparently didn't appreciate the approach of the general, so he moved on to Indiana State, again keeping 4 years of eligibility. And the whole deal was that a lot of teams passed on Larry Bird, old Larry legend, including his hometown Indiana Pacers, because there was no guarantees that he would sign with whomever drafted him prior to 1979 draft, which was the rule back then. You could draft a lad, and just as long as you signed him before the next draft, he was yours. So that even the Celtics, it wasn't a slam dunk for the Celtics because the Celtics kind of stunk at that point, and there were some weird negotiations going on, I guess, right? Red Auerbach ran his John with an iron fist, and he was not going to pay the hick from French Lick more than he was paying his cornerstone center, Dave Cowan. So anyway, they did reach a deal. Eventually, Larry Bird enters the league at the same time as Magic Johnson, even though he was drafted a year prior. And Larry would end up being runner-up in that 79 championship NCAA game. And again, I'm watching The Winning Time on HBO right now, a wonderfully entertaining and apparently controversial kind of bio series that is playing as we speak. Good times, great acting, just a good read, as they say, but you use your ears and your eyeballs on this one. So yeah, so that's that. Let's talk a little bit about last week's show. I had some folks write in, and I appreciate that, commented on the old YouTube. Old Mark Hoyle there, who is from the New England area, says he had put together the 78-79 Topps basketball set from PAX way back in the day. 2 complete sets from one box he was able to compile, and he has since traded most of the second set away. And he says, yes, the Celtics were horrible during this era, revolving door of players. He also had to check to see if Bill Willoughby was in this set, which he wasn't, which would have been another player whose high school would have been listed on the back of his card instead of college. But alas, no Bill Willoughby in this set. Another comment from Chris at Stories and Cardboard pointed out that the scoring champion, of course, was the Iceman, and number 2 was World Be Free, a wonderful high-flying time in the NBA back then, and he loves the 70s. He also points out that the drunk uncle, Rick Barry, scored 64 points in a game once. Pretty impressive. Thanks for the memories. Yeah, on the back of that Rick Barry card has that highlight of what his career high scoring is. Not sure whether that was an ABA or an NBA scoring in-game record for him, but he had a a rich career in both leagues. Very interesting how he bounced back and forth. And finally, another comment from 1 Million Cubs Project, Bo Thompson. Absolutely love the 70s basketball cards, according, or especially the mid to late 70s. So if you're reading slower, which I should, it says, I absolutely love the 70s basketball cards, comma, especially mid to late 70s. Now, old Bo has his Madison Card Show going this weekend in Madison on April 30th. I think it's next weekend, actually. April 30th at the Sheraton Hotel on John Nolan Drive. Bo does, 6 to 8 shows a year, and a wonderful job there. Apparently, it is gangbusters because waiting list for dealers, which is a sign of a healthy show if you have dealers trying to knock the door down to get on there, as they say. So, congrats to Bo. I may or may not be attending myself. I know several of my hobby friends will be doing that. Of course, Jenny from Minnesota, as well as Barley Herman from 3B Collection will be there, as well as a whole bunch of other people. And I don't know why I'm playing with this, but I found a Stars trading card with the band Nelson on it, and I don't know why I have that on my desk. Along with a Dallas Cowboys 1981 schedule. Not sure about that either, so I may need to get my head checked. Whatever. So let's move on to the topic of today's show, which is the Barns of the 1970s. This is part one. Now, when we talk about Barns, we talk about hockey or basketball arenas. And a little background: I have had the privilege of being in attendance. Well, I shouldn't say attendance. I've had the privilege of being in most of the hockey and basketball arenas from the 70s. And as we get through this little series, I guess, if I'm fortunate enough to do more than one of them, I'll kind of try to sprinkle in some anecdotes that I may or may not have from my visits to some of these places. So I've always been fascinated with stadiums and arenas, and so I've done my stadium stuff for baseball palaces. I've knocked a few of those out. So let's move indoors to the hard court / ice of the Barns of the 70s here. Now we're going to start out here in, I just threw an arrow at my computer and it stuck on the Brooklyn Nets. And of course the Brooklyn Nets weren't around in the 70s as the Brooklyn Nets. They were they were lots of things, right? So if I look at my notes here, 67 to 68, they were in the ABA, and they were known as the New Jersey Americans. 68 through 76, they were also in the ABA, but they were known as the New York Nets. 76 to 77, they were the NBA New York Nets. 77 to 2012, they were the New Jersey Nets, and 2012 on, they are the Brooklyn Nets. And of course, they shared an arena that we're going to discuss here for several years with the New York Islanders, who were just the NHL's New York Islanders from 1972 to present, even though they've shuffled around. I think they're on their fourth arena at this point. We'll try to hit some of those on our way by. So let's talk about the Nets, right? Nets started out in Teaneck, New Jersey. They played at the Teaneck Armory in 67, 68. Moved over to the Long Island Arena in Comac, New York, 68 to 69. A place called the Island Garden in West Hempstead, New York, which was 69 to 72. And the Nassau Veterans Memorial Coliseum in Uniondale, which I guess we affiliate mostly with the Islanders, but the Nets played there as ABAers and NBAers, and that was from 72 to 77. They done moved across the river to Piscataway, New Jersey. They played at Rutgers University at the Rutgers Athletic Center from 77 to 81. They would move to Brendan Byrne Arena in the Meadowlands, also known as Continental Airlines Arena, and then the Izod Center. So that was from 81 to 2010. The Prudential Center for a few seasons in Newark with the Devils from 2010 to 2012. And finally, they became the Brooklyn Nets at the Barclays Center, 2012 to present. By the way, the Barclays Center is a pretty phenomenal place to see a basketball game or to see a concert. Not so much for hockey. Apparently, the Islanders had tried that for a bit, didn't work out. but really a modern marvel when it comes to, I guess, my end of the business, doing shows there. The semis, tractor trailers, actually take elevators all the way down to the floor or underground, the floor of the basketball arena, which is a few stories underground. Go on to a turntable, turn around, back up to a loading dock, and then straight back into the elevator and up onto the street again. Obviously, urban arenas pose some challenges from that standpoint, and it looks like they solved some of those problems. They can do a couple trucks at a time down there, which is pretty cool. I bored you guys. I apologize. So let's talk about the Island Garden Arena in the 70s, which most of us probably didn't know existed, right? So the Island Garden Arena was a 5,200-seat arena in West Hempstead, New York. It was built in 1957 by Arnold Whitey Carlson, who was, for some reason, a descendant of Swedish immigrants. I don't know why that was necessary to tell us that. But over the years, many concert acts such as Cream, the Dave Clark Five, Tiny Tim, Louis Armstrong, the Byrds, Sly and Family Stone, the Dave Brubeck Quartet, and Bob Dylan performed at the venue. In addition to concerts, the Island Garden Arena also hosted boxing matches, professional wrestling, circuses, rodeos, stamp shows, midget car racing, and that's insensitive, and boat shows. So again, the arena hosted the New York Nets of the ABA from 69 to 72. The Nets were unable to play any home playoff games in 1971 because the arena was booked for other events. Imagine getting bumped by the ABA getting bumped by the stamp show or the rodeo, or the midgets in their cars. They played one home playoff game at Hofstra and two at Madison Square Garden's Felt Forum. Now, Felt Forum was kind of an annex room just below the main floor of Madison Square Garden Arena. Did a lot of boxing there and stuff like that, but as far as a basketball game, interesting venue. In 71-72, the Nets posted their first winning season, advancing all the way to the NBA Finals in 72, where they lost to the Indiana Pacers. Late in the season, the team moved from the Island Garden into the new Nassau Coliseum. In 1976, the Nets were admitted into the National Basketball Association, where they have remained, eventually becoming today's Brooklyn Nets. That 72 was a big year, right? They moved to Nassau Coliseum. That's also the year the Islanders were born. So don't think the Islanders played at old Island Garden Arena, but we'll see what happens here in a second. So that arena, the Island Garden Arena, was partially demolished in 73, unable to compete with the newer and larger Nassau Coliseum. A shopping center was built on that portion of the site. The remaining portion of the structure was built into a youth basketball venue in 1998. It currently has 3 courts for simultaneous gameplay or practice. Now, a couple of the other places that these old Nets played at. Let's get back to Nassau, right? Because Nassau is a wonderful coliseum, I guess. It's a bit of a dump by today's standards. And by the time I rolled into Nassau Coliseum, probably in the late 80s, 90s, it was really it felt like a Iron Curtain arena, and most similar in size, shape, and atmosphere to the LA Sports Arena in Los Angeles, where the Clippers would play. That's what it reminded me of the most. So Uniondale, New York, obviously is where the Nassau Coliseum is, or was, still is. Had 32 executive suites, could hold 14,500 for basketball, 13,917 for hockey, tennis, they say 6,500, concerts 15,000, or theater 4,500. Now you can manipulate the inside of an arena any way you want by hanging curtains to halve the place or third the place. Been through that many times. So January 20th, 1969 is when they first broke ground on the Nassau Coliseum, and it was, I guess, 69 through 72 it took them to build. Opened February 11th, 1972. Later that fall is when the Islanders would move in, but of course the Nets moved in mid-season. It's been renovated and it's been expanded several times, but it still pretty much is what it is, and it can never be anything better. The Islanders have bounced back and forth there, and I'll try to get to that in a few minutes. Construction cost was $32 million back in the day, which equates to $236 million in 2021 dollars. Welton, Beckett, and Associates were the architect, and that was that. It hosted the Islanders from 72 to 2015, 2018 to 2021. In between those years, they were at the Barclays Center, those pesky Islanders, and subsequently they moved to their own arena, I think called USB Arena or UBS Arena, near Belmont, I guess, racetrack. The Nets were there from 72 to 77. The New York Sets / Apples, which was the World Tennis Tour, 74, or World Team Tennis, 1974 to 1977. The Long Island Tomahawks from the National Lacrosse League, 1975. New York Arrows from Major Indoor Soccer League, 78 to 84. New York Express from 86 to 87, same league. New York Saints from the National Lacrosse League, 89 to 2003. The Long Island Jaws, JAWZ, 1996, not sure what that is, RHI, it's probably a hockey league. Dragons of New York, or the New York Dragons from the Arena Football League from 2001 to 2008. New York Titans, the National Lacrosse League, 2007. Long Island Nets, it's the G League for probably the Brooklyn Nets, right? 2017 to present, so they're still hosting games there for those folks. New York Open, which is a tennis, part of the ATP tennis circuit, 2018 to 2020. And of course, the New York Riptide from the National Lacrosse League, 2019 to present. For those of you that don't know, lacrosse is a pretty big deal on Long Island. It's a pretty big deal in Maryland, and it's kind of a deal in between. My son played lacrosse for many years. It's pretty wicked sport, and Long Island has always been probably the second biggest hotbed for lacrosse in the United States. Of course, it is massive in Canada. All right, so let's talk a little bit about this Coliseum here. Nassau Veterans Memorial Coliseum, obviously simply known as Nassau Coliseum, multi-purpose indoor arena in Uniondale, New York, east of New York City. The Long Island venue is approximately 7 miles east of the eastern limits of New York City, in New York City's borough of Queens, and is also next to the Meadowbrook Parkway, which means nothing to anybody unless you're from Long Island, I suppose. Again, opened in 72, the Coliseum occupies 63 acres of Mitchell Field, a former Army airfield and later Air Force base. Facility is in the town of Hempstead within the Uniondale zip code of 11553. Long Island's divided into different towns, which are really, really big, sub-counties, I would suppose you would refer to it. So town of Hempstead makes it sound quaint, but it's actually, Hempstead's a pretty big geographical area, if I'm not mistaken. The Islanders and the of the NHL played at the Coliseum from 1972 to 2015 before moving to Barclays Center. After the move was commercially unsuccessful, the team split its home schedule between Barclays and the renovated Coliseum from 2018 to 2020 and played a home portion of their 2021 season at the Coliseum before moving to the new UBS Arena at Belmont Park for the 21-22 season, which is also on Hempstead Turnpike, 7.7 miles west of the Coliseum. So if you're doing some math here, the arena is 7 miles east of New York City limits, and these people moved 7.7 miles west back. So my math says that they're about 0.7 miles inside of city limits, but that's not the case. I think they're still in Nassau County or Hempstead Town or whatever you guys want to call it up there. Get your act together, please. So it was home to the New York Nets, now known as the Brooklyn Nets of the American Basketball Association and Nassau Basketball Association from 77 to 72, or 72 to 77, as we said. In 2017, the venue became the new home of the Brooklyn Nets NBA G League team, the Long Island Nets. Let's talk a little bit about ice hockey there at the arena. I'm going to bring up some banners. Obviously, there's a very storied, kind of moving out of the 70s and into the 80s. The Islanders got real good. But the New York Raiders, intended by the World Hockey Association to be their flagship franchise, were slated to play in a new Coliseum in 72-73. However, the Nassau County government did not consider the WHA a fully professional league and wanted nothing to do with the Raiders. Nassau County retained William Shea, William Shea, to get an NHL team to play in the new building. The NHL responded by hastily awarding a franchise to Long Island, the New York Islanders, which forced the Raiders to play in Madison Square Garden, in the shadow of the New York Rangers. On October 7, 1972, the first Islanders game in Nassau Coliseum was played as the Atlanta Flames visited the Islanders. Flames forward Maurice Stefanou scored the first NHL goal in the building at 6:56 of the first period, while Ed Westfall scored the first goal for the Islanders, as the Flames won the game 3-2. The first Islanders home win at the arena was on October 12, 1972, where they defeated the Los Angeles Kings 3-2. The Islanders' first playoff win at the arena came on April 20, 1975, where they defeated the Pittsburgh Penguins 4-2. On April 22, 1976, the Islanders earned their first playoff victory series at the arena by defeating the Buffalo Sabres 3-2 and winning the series 4-2. Getting into the 80s there, the Nassau Coliseum hosted the 35th National Hockey League All-Star Game, during which Wayne Gretzky scored 4 goals in the third period and was honored as the game's most valuable player. The Islanders were 11-1 in Stanley Cup finals games played at the Coliseum. Their only loss was a 1-0 setback in Game 1 of the 1984 series with the Edmonton Oilers. Team fans nicknamed the arena Fort Never Lose in honor of the team's strong home record during the finals. Nassau Coliseum hosted minor league hockey prior to the awarding of the Islanders franchise, an event that was brought back in 2005 when the Islanders affiliated Bridgeport Sound Tigers of the American Hockey League played 2, quote, home games at the Coliseum in the absence of NHL hockey due to the 2004-2005 NHL lockout. On April 17th and 18th, 2009, the Sound Tigers played 2 of their home playoff games against the Wilkes-Barre-Scranton Penguins at the Coliseum due to a scheduling conflict at the arena at Harbor Yard in Bridgeport, Connecticut, the team's home. And of course, on June 23rd, 2021, not that long ago, the Islanders played their final game at the Coliseum in a 3-2 overtime win in Game 6 of the 2021 Stanley Cup semifinals against the Tampa Bay Lightning, with Anthony Beauvillier scoring the overtime goal to force Game 7. However, the Islanders lost Game 7, thus making Game 6 the last major sporting event held there, and Beauvillier that scored the last NHL goal ever in this arena. And the way the Islanders go, I wouldn't necessarily say that this is the last game, because you never know with those guys, man. They move more than they travel more than I do, apparently. So I'm looking at here on my screen here all the numbers that have been retired. Of course, that 89, that 79 to probably 84 dynasty. Billy Smith, Nystrom 23, Mike Bossy 22, Brian Trottier 19, Clark Gillies 9, and Dennis Podman 5. So that's 6 players out of that era that have had their numbers retired, and I'm sure they're hanging both in the Nassau Coliseum as well as the UBS Arena, 7 or 7.7 miles west of Nassau. Let's talk a little bit about basketball there. Now, the Coliseum was home to the New York Nets of the American Basketball Association and later National Basketball Association from 72 to 77. The first event at the Coliseum was a Nets game against the Pittsburgh Condors on February 11th, 1972. Bring back the Condors, huh? The Nets won 2 ABA championships in the Coliseum, with Hall of Famer Julius Erving headlining the team. In 73-74, the Nets defeated the Utah Stars in 5 games to capture their first title. The Nets then captured the final ABA championship in 76, defeating the Denver Nuggets in 6 games. Following the 76 season, the Nets joined the National Basketball Association as part of the ABA-NBA merger. After their first season in the NBA, the Nets moved to New Jersey. New Jersey Nets played 4 seasons at the Rutgers Athletic Center before moving on to the Meadowlands Arena and all the names that would ensue following. The RAC, the Rutgers Athletic Center. So let's wrap up here at the Coliseum real quick before we head cross river, as Bruce Springsteen used to sing in Jersey Girl. In NCAA Division I men's college basketball, the Coliseum hosted the ECAC Metro Region Tournament. It also hosted first and second round games of the NCAA Division I men's basketball tournament in 82, 94, and 2001. On November 5th, 2015, the Nets announced their new NBA D-League team again. The Long Island Nets would play in the Coliseum starting in 2017, and they had previously played their first season at the parents' team's home in Brooklyn's Barclays Center. So something that's near and dear to my heart. I've been through Nassau Coliseum several times with concert tours. Let's talk a little bit about that. Elvis Presley performed 4 sold-out concerts at the Nassau Coliseum. Why can I not say that at this point? 26 minutes and 4 seconds into the episode. Those shows were on June 22nd, 23rd, 24th. That's 4 sold-out shows, so I'm sure he had a matinee in there somewhere. His last Coliseum appearance was on July 19th, 1975. 6 days following Presley's death, a summer tour was scheduled to begin at the Coliseum on August 22nd, 1977. Tickets for the show have become collector's items. I'm old enough to have worked and known people that were supposed to be on that tour, and a friend of mine who's also a mentor of mine took us on a kind of a backstage tour of Graceland because he was still pretty tight with the Memphis Mafia there. And in 1989, we got to drive our bus right up to Graceland, park in the back, and get to see things that other people hadn't seen. So pretty cool stuff. So that's my 2 degrees of separation right there with the King. Led Zeppelin played 3 nights at Nassau Coliseum on their 1975 North American tour. During the second night, February 13th, Ronnie Wood of the Faces and Rolling Stones joined the band for a rousing rendition of Communication Breakdown. All right, buddies, strap it in here. The greatest band ever we're going to talk about. Coliseum was one of only 2 venues in the United States where Pink Floyd mounted their limited run of shows for the Wall Tour. The group performed 5 concerts from February 24th through 28th, 1980, one of which was filmed and only appeared as an underground tape. In August 1988, they recorded and filmed The Delicate Sound of Thunder over 4 nights at the Coliseum. Pink Floyd first played the venue in June 1975 as part of their Wish You Were Here tour, and again they performed August 19 through 23 on the Momentary Lapse Region tour, which we just talked about. So the other venue they played in the United States on that first The Wall tour was Los Angeles Sports Arena, which I've mentioned before, and which is almost a carbon copy of Nassau Coliseum. They only played 4 cities. They played LA, they played Long Island, they played London, I believe it's Earl's Court, they did that twice on this tour, and Frankfurt, Germany, I believe, or Dortmund, one of those 2. It isn't like it wasn't like it is these days where you can just get stuff in and out. They had to sit down, and it was quite a feat, those shows back in the early 80s, trying to replicate the wall with projection, the actual wall, all that nonsense. So pretty spectacular on their part. Billy Joel has a retired number banner hanging from the rafters, along with those of Islander greats, of course, that I mentioned, to commemorate his many sold-out Coliseum shows. His retired number is 69. Both the Grateful Dead and Phish frequently played the Coliseum, concerts yielding live albums in both cases. The Grateful Dead holds the record for most performances at the venue by a single act with 42 total shows. A banner was raised during the 2019 Dead and Company show commemorating the 44 combined performances by the Grateful Dead and Dead and Company. Frank Zappa played his final U.S. show on March 25th, 1988 at the Coliseum. He was joined by his son, Dweezil Zappa, for the concert's encores. The Coliseum hosted the opening leg of WrestleMania 2 on April 7th, 1986, as part of an ambitious plan to host WrestleMania from 3 separate venues. Also used were the Rosemont Horizon in Chicago and the, again, multiple times aforementioned Los Angeles Memorial Arena. 16,585 fans saw 4 live matches at the Coliseum, with the rest of the event shown to the audience by closed circuit television. The main event at the Nassau leg of WrestleMania 2 was a boxing match between Roddy Piper and tough guy actor Mr. T. The Coliseum was the second oldest arena in active use by the National Hockey League, by a National Hockey League team, after nearby Madison Square Garden, and until the return of the Winnipeg Jets to the league at 15,000 four-seat Canada Life Center, Winnipeg was the smallest arena in the NHL by total seating capacity. The arena had been considered obsolete for many years, and various island owners have tried to replace it. Well, job done. It was obsolete when I started going there in the late 80s. But it's something that Long Island could call its own and carve out its own history in sports, and not in the shadow of New York, right? Yeah, so that's that. Let's talk a little bit about where these other guys played. And when I say other guys, I mean the New York Americans / Nets / New Jersey Nets / Brooklyn Nets. The Rutgers Athletic Center, known as RAC, in Piscataway, New Jersey. I remember vividly watching 76ers games and hearing the name Piscataway and hearing the term RAC, and thought it was so exotic. And little did I know that Piscataway is really, it's not a destination. But anyway, it's owned by Rutgers, the State University of New Jersey, has a capacity of 8,000, broke ground in 1975, and it opened November 30th, 1977. The tenants, of course, are the Rutgers Scarlet Knights from 1977 to present, as well as the New Jersey Nets of the ABA, 1977, again, to 1981. It's now called Jersey Mike's Arena, and commonly known again as the RAC. Let's see here. It's I guess Piscataway, New Jersey is Rutgers University's Livingston campus. I'm not quite sure the geographic setup is there. Building is shaped like a truncated tent, and with trapezoidal sides on the north and south ends. If you're looking at my picture on the screen on YouTube, it reminds me of kind of like a brutalist architect set up there, which a lot of that stuff in the early mid 70s was. It's just butt ugly concrete and bizarrely shaped for sure. It's home to the men's and women's Rutgers Scarlet Knights basketball teams, as well as the wrestling and gymnastics programs. Now you know. So let's talk a little bit about non-Rutgers sporting events, which leads us to the New Jersey Nets. 1977, when the team moved from Nassau Veterans Memorial Coliseum, of course, and until 1981, when they moved to the Brendan Byrne Arena, which is still there, next to the New Meadowlands, and I guess it's MetLife Field, and the American Dream Entertainment Complex. So Brendan Byrne Arena, Continental Arena, Izod Center, whatever you want to call it, still there. Last I heard, it was used as a soundstage for a TV series for several years. So it's still there. Big old white elephant. The arena, we're talking about the RAC here. The arena is also the site for the boys and girls Middlesex County High School Basketball Tournament Finals and various boys and girls New Jersey High School Basketball State Playoff games. On Saturday, April 13th, 1996, a Professional Bowlers Association tournament was broadcast live from the arena on ABC. It was called the Johnny Petroglia Open. So it's pretty much all I have to say about the RAC Center. So that's your homes for the New York Islanders and the New Jersey / New York Nets of the ABA/NBA, and various other incarnations, the New York Americans. Not going to talk about the Barclays Center too much. Don't care, right? Because we're talking about the 70s. If you're interested, there's a couple cards floating around. There's one with a John Tavares 2014-2015 Upper Deck Premier. It's called a booklet, and it's numbered RH-JT. It's a kind of an insert card. Nice little shot of the ice at Nassau Veterans Memorial Coliseum. And of course, back in the day, Panini stickers. There's an 89 or 89-90 Panini sticker floating around. That the front has a nice shot of the Nassau Veterans Memorial Coliseum, and the back will tell us both in English and in French how you can trade double stickers. It's a fun way to meet new friends and complete your album faster. Lots of logos on the back of that. We see the big Panini logo, NHL logo, NHLPA logo, hockey, big old NHL hockey there. There's a magnifying glass in the upper right-hand corner. I don't know what that's for. Maybe that's just off of where I copied the picture. But again, printed in Modena, Italy, as Panini stickers would have been back then. So that's that. That's the Barnes Part 1, Brooklyn/New Jersey/New York Nets, and the Long Islanders. And that's about it. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I want to thank you guys for joining me on my journey back in time. If you have a comment or suggestion, I urge you to drop me a line at ThatSeventiesCardShow@gmail.com. You can hit me up on Twitter at 70scard, or leave a comment on my YouTube channel at ThatSeventiesCardShow. Music, as usual, is by Mango Safari, which is available everywhere. You may want to grab some music, and that's about it. So, once again, we've come to the end of the show 49. Show 50 is coming up. I have two grand plans, so we'll see what happens, which one comes to fruition. But it is going to be exciting for me. I'm excited about episode 50. It's probably 50 more shows than I should have done, but I'm looking forward to kind of mixing it up a little on episode 50. And that's that. So enjoy your collecting, and more importantly, enjoy your collection. Have a great week, everybody. Be safe. Good luck to Bo at the Madison Car Show this week. Hopefully I can make it up there. Game time decision. Take care, everybody. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening.